Yeah, hello everyone. Very good evening, and I hope I'm audible. The audio is fine.
Yes, audible.
Thanks a lot, and hope everyone is doing well and safe at home in these turbulent times. And I uh, want to be the smallest bridge possible between the session and the introduction. And we have a very packed agenda for the day. We will are fortunate enough to have the acceptance of Dr. Vikas Kohli and Dr. Poonam Kohli, who have agreed to shed light on the current situation and how we can be precautionary about the current situation and deal with it and fight as a family. And so we have a couple of sessions planned, which Dr. Poonam Kohli and Dr. Vikas Kohli would be sharing, like starting from personal care, sanitization, to home isolation, and if there's treatment required, or then post-COVID care, what all things have to be done. So they would be elucidating on all these topics. And first of all, I would like to have an introduction of Dr. Vikas Kohli. He's a very renowned um, doctor, and he has done his MD Pediatrics from PGI Chandigarh, and was also a gold medalist while doing his MBBS. And you can see a couple of awards to his name. And with his vast experience, we are fortunate enough to have him today helping us out to navigate this current situation. And we are also fortunate to have Dr. Poonam Kohli, who has more than 22 years of experience in this line. And we are again fortunate enough that she has agreed to uh, connect with our students. And now I would request Dr. Vikas Kohli, Dr. Poonam Kohli, and all the faculty members who are there to have this great session and take the best out of this opportunity and even be more safer and more secure while being at home. Over to you, Dr. Kohli, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Charlene, for giving us this opportunity today to talk about COVID. We all are so scared of this virus. This is a completely new science to doctors, also just 1 year old, and we all trying our best to understand it. And most of the things we all have read from WhatsApp, and people have increased their knowledge. But we are just going to talk about the basic topics to make sure that we all prevent this illness and keep our loved ones safe, because we all keep hearing the news and there is so much negativity around us listening to the news that there are no beds, no oxygen. So it is very scary situation. But most of the people, healthy individuals who are taking care of themselves, are recovering also, but that is not shown or highlighted in the news today. So we have to preserve our physical health and mental health, and we're going to discuss. The first topic I'm going to talk about is prevention of COVID. Please let me know if I'm going too fast or if I'm not audible. So doctors alone cannot fight this COVID virus, because as we can see, it is huge. And we all have a role to play. We all have to fight this virus together. So what do we have to do to fight this virus? There are three most important things which we all know, but how many of us are able to follow this? Number one is stay at home. So many companies have given opportunities to people to work from home so that they can be with their families. So we have to optimally utilize that. The second one is wearing a mask. We are going to discuss in details what kind of mask and how we have to mask. And the third is sanitization. So we're going to discuss all these issues in details. So first of all, what are the kinds of masks which are available in the market? The first one, as we can see in the picture, is a cloth mask. The second one is a surgical mask. The third one is N95 mask, and the fourth one is N95 with a valve. So cloth mask is the most commonly used. As we can see, we are all familiar with this printed mask, matching masks, and people are making it themselves at home and are using innovative ideas to do that. But is it enough? The filtration is lower as compared to surgical mask. What is the ideal cloth mask? What is it that it should be? It should be a triple layered mask. Most of us don't even know that this concept exists, because whatever is available in the market, we pick up and we buy whatever we like to wear. So the innermost layer should be absorbent, and it should be made with tightly woven cotton. The middle layer should be non-absorbent, so that it's kind of waterproof. It should be made of polypropylene. The outermost layer should also be non-absorbent material such as polyester. And the reason why it should be waterproof is so that when a person sneezes or coughs, the droplets don't come out of the mask. Okay, whatever mask we wear, the most important thing is it should be a well-fitted mask. It should cover our nose, mouth, and lower part of chin. And nose also, it should cover till the bridge of the nose, not the tip of the nose. The mask should not be loose from the sides, because what happens when we sneeze or when we cough, the droplets, they come out with so much force. So the droplets, they take the path of the lowest pressure, lowest resistance. So they will leak from the side of the mask. So many people, like rural people we've seen, they will wrap a cloth around, sari around their mask, or bandanas also, fancy looking masks, but they are not enough. The advantage of cloth mask is that people can make it at home. It's reusable, so it's economical, and we can wash it at home with soap and water. What are the other ways that we can sanitize or reuse these masks? These are not commonly used, but some people use it. We can bleach them, we can put alcohol, we can use hydrogen peroxide to clean them, autoclave them, microwave them, or even use, people have bought UV light boxes to sanitize different items, and they can put these masks also in that. So easiest is soap water washing in the hottest possible water, and after that one can iron it. Okay, the important thing is when we wear a mask, how do we take it off? People keep touching the front of the mask. The front of the mask is full of the bug. It is full of the virus. So when we take off the mask, we should take it off from the side, which is above the ear, and we should not touch the front of the mask at all. And if by mistake we have touched it, the most important thing is to wash your hands or sanitize your hands immediately. So cloth masks only give us a false sense of security. They just make us look beautiful. It matches our clothes, but it doesn't really help. It just tells, we just feel that we are wearing a mask when we go out, but it's not enough. So now I'm going to compare three kinds of mask. The number one you can see is the cloth mask. The number two is surgical mask, and number three is N95 mask. As we can see, the cloth mask is good, surgical is better, but the best is N95. So as we just discussed, the pros and cons of the cloth mask are that it is washable, comfortable, it blocks coarse droplets. It has one protective layer. Most of the masks which we use have one protective layer. It doesn't block fine or ultra fine droplets. The second one is surgical mask. It has mostly 2-ply. Some 3-ply and 4-pliers are also available these days, but most people are not aware, or they get expensive for people and people are not using. These masks, they block coarse and fine particles. The cons are that it's one-time use. As soon as it gets wet, maybe in 6 hours time, then you have to throw it off. So it is one-time use, so it increases the cost, and it doesn't block ultra-fine droplets. And also most of the surgical masks are loose on the side. So N95, as we all know, is the best mask, but it also gives only 95% protection. It is made with multiple layers. It gives a tight seal, and it blocks coarse particles, fine and ultra-fine droplets. But the cons are that not too many people know that the seal should be tight. People wear comfortable so that they can breathe, but it should be tight seal. And the cost is more, and also if we all start using N95, then there won't be enough left for medical workers and immunocompromised workers. There are two kinds of N95 masks which are available in the market. We must have seen people wearing masks with the valves, sometimes one, sometimes two valves on the side. And earlier, when we all didn't know, we all used to think, oh, this is more comfortable to wear, so people would wear it, or our elderly would wear it because it would not be suffocating. But it poses a risk to the person around that person, because the valve allows the germs to escape. So the right kind of mask is the blue mask, which you can see, and it should give a tight seal to make it effective, 95% effective. So now that all sabjiwalas and all people have gotten used to wearing a mask, they have a mask because people don't come close to people who are not wearing a mask. So they have all learned over a period of time. It's been a year, but people still don't know how to wear a mask. As you can see in the picture, sometimes the mask is below the nose, sometimes it's just loosely placed, and sometimes it's the chin is exposed, or it is used as a chin guard, or only the nose tip is covered. So all these methods are wrong. As we discussed earlier, it should cover the nose bridge and the lower part of the chin, and it should be tight from the sides. We all have recently heard in the news that it is time to double up. What does it mean? It means double masking. We all have heard. Is it really effective? This message has come from Dr. Anthony Fauci. We all know him that he's a leading infectious disease expert. He's the advisor to President Biden, President of America. And he suggested that it makes more common sense wearing double mask because it adds to the filtration process. But how do we really wear it? Which mask to wear under and which one to make a top layer? So most of us have access to surgical masks and cloth masks. So considering this, they've suggested that first we should wear a surgical mask. Why surgical mask? Because surgical mask, it has a nasal clip, so it fits well. But it is loose from the sides. So we have to make a tight seal. So when we wear a cotton layer on top of the surgical mask, the side seal, which can be loose in a surgical mask, gets tightened. So it gives a very snug fit and it adds to the filtration. But suppose you have to go to a hospital or you have to take care of a sick COVID patient at home, then still this is not enough. It is better than wearing a one mask. It is better than wearing just surgical alone or cloth alone, but still it doesn't prevent 100%. So we've talked enough about masks. The second topic we're going to talk about is sanitization. Whenever we can wash our hands, that is the best thing to do. But if we don't have access to water and soap, then sanitization should be done. So hand washing, the right technique is we have to wash our hands for 20 seconds. And we have to wash the hands, both sides, in between our fingers, tip of our nails, the thumb, and we have to scrub it and wash it over 20 seconds time. So many people have come up with different songs to teach their children to recite happy birthday songs, so that children keep engaged in washing their hands the right way for the right amount of time. So the second one is the sanitizer. There are two kinds of sanitizers which are available in the market, the alcohol-based. Different people give different numbers, how much alcohol should be there in the sanitizer. So 60% is what CDC recommends. And you should put it on your hands for 20 seconds, let it dry. So put enough so that the whole part of your hand gets sanitized. There are certain people who have sensitive skin, so there are alcohol-free hand sanitizers also which are available in the market, and they're equally effective. They can wipe off 99.9% of viruses in 15 seconds. And the ingredient which I came across when I was doing research was benzalkonium chloride. And very small concentration of it is enough. So when do we have to sanitize? We have to sanitize before and after touching our eyes, nose, and mouth, before handling food, before and after taking care of sick people, touching contaminated surfaces, and the most common ones are door handles, after coughing or sneezing, after touching the front of the mask, and entering or leaving a public place. So the third most important thing to prevent after the mask sanitization is social isolation. It actually means self-lockdown. We have to learn to stay at home and not get out of the house, because right now the infection is so much that we don't know. Every third person is getting infected. So we have to protect ourselves and our families. So try to order things online. So during this process of social lockdown, it's affecting people's mental health because they keep listening to the news. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with their time, and they are creating negativity around. So we have to stay positive, and we have to keep our families positive during this time, because we don't know when it's going to go. This is the second wave we have come across, and this variant is even a stronger variant. We're going to talk about it in details. So how do we keep ourselves busy during social lockdown? We have to stay positive, we have to stay active, we have to keep connected to our friends and family because we cannot meet them, and we all haven't met our friends and families for almost a year now. So we are tempted. So many people have started doing marriages, which is totally inappropriate. So one should discourage their relatives to do that and should not participate in that. We all should pick up new hobbies, and we should listen to good news also, not just COVID news. So these are the 7 pillars of self-care. Increase your knowledge, read more about the virus, not just virus, but so many other things are there to learn on this earth. We have to take care of our mental well-being. We should be physically active because, as we all know, physical activity produces healthy, happy hormone endorphins. We should eat healthy, and we should avoid junk food, juices, and we should avoid risk behavior like smoking, getting into drugs, or too much of screen time. We should practice good hygiene, and we should shun from taking too many medicines on our own in the name of multivitamins and everything. We'll talk about this in detail. So, what are the things which can help our immunity? Getting good sleep, good quality sleep boosts our immunity. As we all know, 7 to 8 hours would be good. And we should stay active. We should eat healthy. We should eat fruits, salads, and avoid junk food, juices, and aerated drinks. We should try to drink warm fluids, soups, herbal teas. So many teas are available with us in India. We can drink haldi wala pani, haldi wala milk, and so many other things, ginger and all, which we have in our kitchen. We should try and meditate. Charlene had played meditation music just before this talk, and it was really soothing. It is magical. We all should try to do it. We all always wanted time to do all these things, and now is the time. Instead of being negative, we start practicing these things. We can do yoga, we can do deep breathing exercises, and it will help our lungs. So there are few tips I'm going to discuss about coping with stress. There are so many helplines also which are available right now. So many psychologists, psychiatrists, they have opened free helplines for people who are getting depressed. So people should seek help and should not think they are alone. There are so many people who are suffering. We all are suffering. So it's normal to feel sad, and we should seek help. And we should be aware of other things also that are happening, and all news should not be taken as the right news. We should do our own research and try to find what is right, and we should decrease our stresses and fear. If we stay healthy, then we will not need oxygen, we will not need a hospital bed. So what we can do is prevent the problem. We should do things that we have done in the past to manage our stresses, like talk to our mothers, talk to our friends, talk to our loved ones. And we discussed earlier that we should take care of our exercise, sleeping, and all that. So we should deal with our emotions in a healthy way. So the key messages of this first talk are: we should wear a mask, we should wear a right kind of mask, we should wear it with the right technique, and we should wear it all the time when we step out of the home. We should not think that there's nobody in the area, we will walk away from people. No, you don't know when somebody will come across, but still try to avoid meeting people. And just to let you know that sometimes when people sneeze or cough, the droplets can go as far as 8 to 10 meters. So social distancing that we all talked about, 6 feet may not be enough. So stay indoors. Do not touch the outer part of the mask. Wash hands the right way, sanitize the right way and frequently, and socially isolate yourself, which is a difficult task, but it is the need of the hour and we all should follow it. I'll pass on the mic to Dr. Kohli, and we will take the questions in the end.
Yeah, I think that was extremely enlightening, and we could actually get the basics right. This is actually the way we are taking care of ourselves. We are ensuring that we wear the mask and the appropriate mask, and we keep checking each other. Now, everyone cannot be just at home, and some people have to go to work, and work will open up at some stage. So how do we take care of our offices, buildings, and what do we follow? All the recommendations that I'm giving are WHO, CDC recommendations, and they are internationally accepted recommendations. Nothing is conjectural. So how do I disinfect surfaces during coronavirus disease pandemic? In non-healthcare settings, sodium hypochlorite 0.1% or 0.05% is your best friend. Alcohol 70 to 90% can also be used for surface disinfection, but you can understand that if we are using 0.1% of sodium hypochlorite, how very effective it is as compared to 70-90% alcohol. This is the first option, is the cheapest option. Surfaces must be cleaned with water, soap, or detergent first to remove dirt, followed by disinfection. 1 part of 5% strength household bleach to 49 parts of water is enough to create a solution with which you can clean anything. Suppose somebody came in and you came to know the next day he's turned out positive with COVID. This is all you need to do, is sodium hypochlorite. This is also the fluid to be used in your offices. When you walk in your office and you want to be sure, just spray this on the table, on the chairs, and wherever you think you will be touching. And even for your regular household cleaning and disinfection products, you can use the same. So where all do you need to use a disinfectant? Home, office, schools, gyms, publicly accessible areas, faith-based community centers, market, transportation, public transportation. So if you're sitting in an auto or in a cab, high-touch surfaces, window handles, sorry about that, kitchen, food preparation areas, countertops, bathroom surfaces, toilets, touch screen personal devices, personal computers, keyboards. If you have to stay in a hotel, for example, these are the places. What about outdoor spaces, markets, roads, outside of houses? In outdoor spaces, large-scale spraying or fumigation in areas such as streets or open market places for COVID-19 virus or other pathogens is not recommended. So spraying these liquids in places which are open areas, walkways, etc., not recommended. Streets and sidewalks are not considered routes of infection for COVID-19. Spraying disinfectants, even outdoors, can be noxious to people's health, cause eye, respiratory, skin irritation, and damage. What about spray tunnels, chambers at the entrance of buildings? They are of no use. In fact, harmful to skin, eyes, and creating allergies. This practice could be physically, psychologically be harmful and would not reduce an infected person's ability to spread the virus. The virus does not reside on our skin. The toxic effects of spraying with chemicals such as chlorine on individuals can lead to problems. So are gloves recommended for the community in public spaces to protect against COVID? No. The use of gloves by public in public spaces is not recommended or proven prevention measure. Wearing gloves does not replace the need for hand hygiene. And in fact, gloves do not provide adequate protection because when we remove the gloves, we can contaminate our hands and finger points at that time. So office space safe, how can we do it? You have to clean common surfaces, desks first clean, then disinfect, soap, water, wet wipes, hypochlorite. Classrooms, open air, highly ventilated, air conditioning not being central, social distancing, and keeping doors and windows open. These are the key ways of preventing in a classroom. That is about infrastructure. Now, Dr. Poonam will speak about COVID symptomatology and isolation and basic treatment.
Hello again. So we are going to talk about COVID symptoms, the common ones, the isolation, if somebody gets COVID, and the basic treatment. As we can see, the newer strain, it's even more contagious and more severe. The old strain was causing fever, persistent cough, and loss of smell or taste. But the new strain is causing aches and pains, sore throat, rash on the skin, headache, conjunctivitis, discoloration of fingers and toes, and not to forget diarrhea. And this is a common thing which we are seeing in children also right now. Just isolated presentation of diarrhea. So any symptom cannot be ignored. Sometimes people think that they got headache just because they've been watching too much TV, but anything one feels is not the normal self. just first thing to do is isolate oneself. So home isolation. So what is home isolation? Isolation is used to separate people who get infected. So as soon as somebody gets infected, they should be assigned a separate room, which is well ventilated. The windows should be open, and if possible, they should have a separate bathroom to themselves. The person who's in isolation should not be sharing towels and utensils with anyone. Actually, they should be keeping the utensils inside and washing it themselves. And people who are taking care of them, when they're leaving the food outside their room also, should be wearing N95 and preferably a shield on top. Or if in emergency, they have to check on the patient inside the room, then both of them, the caregiver as well as the patient, should be wearing N95 mask. So when a person is in home isolation, what are the things you have to be careful about? The door knobs and surfaces touched should be sanitized with hypochlorite, as Dr. Kohli just mentioned. Patients should be frequently washing hands and sanitizing because the person will be touching everything in that room. And caregiver should not touch the front of the mask, which I mentioned in the earlier presentation. And the caregiver should be washing hands before and after dealing with anything to do with that patient. And some people, they wear gloves, as Dr. Kohli just mentioned. So when the person is wearing gloves, the person should wash hands before wearing gloves and after removing gloves. And if a caregiver has to wash utensils of the person who's isolated, if the isolated person is too weak, then they should be wearing a mask and preferably gloves to wash the utensils. Once the utensils are washed with hot water and soap solution, they are not spreading infection. So what do we have to monitor the person who's in home isolation? And we have to teach this to every individual who's in home isolation. Some people, everybody has 2-3 pulse oximeter these days at home, and they keep checking inside, they keep checking their oxygen. If it's dropping 90 in between, they're getting so scared. So what is the magic number? Generally, we give number to everybody that it should be more than 95%, and check the saturation twice a day. Or if one is feeling shortness of breath or chest pain, and if the saturation is coming low, don't panic. Make sure that the hands are warm and check on the middle finger for at least 1 minute. And sometimes the battery of the pulse oximeter is weak and it gives a wrong number. And the most important thing to watch is the wave which comes on the pulse oximeter. Sometimes the heart rate is showing 30, 40, and the saturation is low and people panic. So we have to wait for the heart rate to give a number, which we usually have the heart rate of 70, 80, whatever is our range. Then only we should look at the number of the saturation. The second thing which we have to monitor is blood pressure, because it gives us information about our body circulation. So the systolic blood pressure, the top blood pressure, should be maintained above 100 in adults. If it's coming on the lower side, before panicking, try to hydrate more, take coconut water, ORS, soups, charts. They're just few examples. So that, and then check the blood pressure again. If it comes up, then one should not panic. The fever should be monitored 6 hourly, or if the person is feeling uncomfortable, and paracetamol can be taken 6 hourly for temperature more than 99, for body aches or headache. And generally, adults who are decent built, 650 milligram paracetamol is more than enough. Do not take 1000 milligram paracetamol because it can damage the liver. I've seen prescriptions of people taking 1000 milligram every 4 to 6 hourly, and they don't want to see fever. So some doctors are prescribing round the clock, take it for 3-4 days, and you will not feel anything and you will feel fine. So we do not want false sense of security. We want to see whether it's coming or not, whether we really need the paracetamol or not. So the next thing which we need to, so when should we consult the doctor? The doctor should be consulted if the oxygen level is persistently going below 94 and the systolic blood pressure is below 100, or there is shortness of breath, the hands and feet are getting cold, and there is a chest pain. Any patient who is above 40 years, diabetic, hypertensive, has a known heart disease in the past, has immune deficiency, should not try to self-medicate, because these days everybody has copied prescriptions from WhatsApp from their friends and family, because doctors are becoming very inaccessible. So people are just trying to help each other, but in that process, they may do harm to people who can get very sick and it can become late. So how many days of isolation is required for people who get positive? If a person is asymptomatic, we take 10 days from the positive COVID report. If a person is symptomatic, then 10 days from the first symptom. At least no fever for 3 days is after when the person can come out of isolation. And we do not need negative COVID report to come out of isolation, because COVID test can remain positive for 3 months and repeat testing is not needed unless the patient becomes symptomatic again, which are similar COVID symptoms. If a patient is very sick, a person like requiring oxygen, hospitalization, or the fever is prolonged more than usual, or the cough is persistent, then the isolation is decided by the treating physician. So what is the basic treatment one can do at home? First thing is isolation. The person who gets COVID generally gets tired very easily and sleeps a lot, and that is normal. They need a lot of rest. They need a lot of fluids. They should be doing deep breathing exercises to feel good and to keep their lungs exercised. Paracetamol can be taken for fever, body aches, and headache. Generally, people get soreness of throat. It's like throat mein kuch lag raha hai continuously. That is what they feel. So no need to take too many medicines for that. One can take lozenges, like simply Swalen, Honeytus. These are available in the market, so one can take those. Multivitamins, vitamin C can be taken in a larger quantity than usual we take, and zinc is taken daily, and vitamin D3 has shown to affect our immunity and give us some COVID protection, so one should try to take that. Doctors should be consulted, and self-medications are dangerous, we all understand that. And if fever or cough persists beyond 5 to 7 days, this is very, very important, that if the fever and cough is persisting beyond 5 to 7 days, do not take it lightly. The doctor should be informed. If you cannot get hold of your previous doctor whom you consulted, catch hold of someone else before it is too late. But do seek medical opinion. This is a slide which Dr. Kohli is going to explain.
One of the things that will improve us, especially if we are having cough, and decrease the chances of respiratory or lung involvement is if we lie down on our tummy, like the first number 1 picture here. So if we look at the schematic on the left topmost, where my arrow is, this is the heart of the patient, and these are the lungs here. And with that, the darkest blue color indicates the lung, which is collecting all the secretions and is also compressed by the heart. So if a person is lying on back, this is where all the secretions will get collected. On the other hand, if the person is lying on his chest and tummy, then the heart will not compress the back zone, and the secretions will move out from there, and the area which is in front of the heart, which is a very tiny part of lung, which is not effective and not important, that gets compressed slightly only, and that doesn't create any problem. And that way the secretions keep coming out more easily. And frequent change of posture on the sides, right side, on the side, left side, and on the back, and more frequently on the tummy. But some very obese people will find it difficult to actually lie down on their tummy. So this is something very important for those who have cough or respiratory symptoms.
So this last slide of this topic, I'm going to talk about disposal of medical waste. If somebody is sick in your house, do not throw the garbage outside in the common area, because that exposes other people and also the person who's handling the waste. So the recommendation is that we have to keep collecting the garbage in a double black bag, and then put it in a yellow bag, and then we have to inform common biomedical waste treatment facility, and they come and pick up the waste from the house of people who have COVID. Thank you. We are open for questions now. Dr. Kohli is going to talk a little bit about how to boost immunity first. And
No. I think we'll go to questions. I think we'll go to questions. There must be a lot of questions.
Yes, Neha Gandhi, please, if you can ask.
Hi, Jai Shri Ram ji. Actually, I have a query. After you get recovered from COVID, or during the recovery stage, like I've actually read about, and one of my relatives is facing the issue of UTI. So is that a thing to worry during the recovery stage or after that, or is it okay that if you're facing such things, then antibiotics can help you get rid of the UTI issue?
So I'll take this question. Neha, the UTI can be independent of COVID itself. But at the same time, post-COVID, the immunity may go down. So you may be one person may be prone to infections. So the best thing to do is hydrate yourself well and take antibiotics after doing proper urine culture for adequate amount of time. And one can take antibiotics in a smaller dose, which can prevent further infection.
So is there a time span, or it'll go by the time we take time to recover? Because like the consultant doctor actually mentioned that it takes at least maybe 3 to 4 weeks for you to get that proper immunity or the proper recovery back, and you can be strong enough. So does UTI also have this kind of an issue which takes 3 to 4 weeks to?
UTI is like any other infection, and it should not be taken lightly. Because it can spread to blood also. So one should follow the important thing is that once you take care of the medicine, which you get the result after you get the culture, you take the appropriate antibiotic for adequate amount of time. And before discontinuing the antibiotics, we have to check the urine routine and the culture again, make sure the culture becomes negative. And then after that, take it for decent amount of time. But if the UTI is not clearing, one has to do ultrasound of kidney to make sure that there's not anything else that is not being missed.
Anything to worry about this infection?
One has to hydrate well. One has to build immunity. One has to do other things to build immunity.
Okay, and is it very is it quite common of having such infections after corona while the recovering stage?
Not necessarily. Every individual has different immunity. So it can be one's own personal immunity, or yes, to some extent, COVID may affect your immunity for some time.
I don't know. I just have one little small query I would like to clear is UTI similar to CAC? What actually I've usually read about the urine cytokine issue. Is it similar to that CAC?
No, it is not related to the cytokine storm. She told you very clearly this is an independent problem. So this is not related to cytokine storm.
Okay.
Individual may be predisposed to UTI for other reasons, and that has to be dealt with the local doctor. My suggestion is if we deal with general questions rather than specific patients, because we don't have all patient information that we are discussing, it will help everybody.
We can move on to the next question if anyone has.
Actually, I'd like to, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, Deepak ji.
Hello, good evening, sir. Thank you for such a nice information, sir. My question is that this new strain which is coming now, second wave, is this the same COVID-19 or something different from that, or some modified form of that coronavirus?
It is a new COVID variant that we all are dealing with, and it is more virulent as compared to the previous one. As I showed in one of the slides, I showed that it has so many different kind of new symptoms that we are seeing, like diarrhea and rash, which we were not seeing in the previous strain. And it is spreading too fast.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And
I'd like to... Go ahead, please.
And also, I have read somewhere that there might be the chances that there will be third wave or third modification part of this corona. So should we prepare for that? Like for second wave, we were not prepared. Oxygen cylinders are not sufficient in the country. So should government prepare for the third wave, or what are the chances? Can we forecast another wave, third wave of this coronavirus?
Sir, let's prevent today that we don't get infection. There is only one mechanism we need to follow: a very good mask and hand sanitization. If you do this, you will not need oxygen, you will not need hospital, you will not need remdesivir, you will not need anything. So focus on today. We don't know what is going to happen 3 months later. It'll all be positive. There are countries which have come out of this, as you know, and we all will come out of it. For sure, we are very optimistic about it. As doctors, we know that every pandemic ends at some stage. There is no pandemic which lasts forever. It'll end. But the habit that we have to change, all of us together, is that we have to be very strict to others and with ourselves about masking. And once we mask ourselves and majority of the country gets immunized, gets vaccinated, this pandemic is finished. Take my word for it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Generally, people are getting very lenient now that they call their neighbors at home, they call their relatives at home. We cannot practice that. We have to just stay with our families, stay indoors.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yes, Sonia ji.
Hello. Hello. I wanted to ask one question. How much is it possible that a person who has already recovered from the COVID will get the infection again very soon? And if it is happening that the person can get the infection again, how much dangerous that can be for the person? Or is it okay that if the person gets infected again, but the person will not be impacted by it with that severity with which it had impacted in the first time?
So if it has impacted a person once and one is planning that, if it impacts me again, that means the person is not following adequate prevention habits. It's very important that we follow very strict prevention habits. The only way the virus spreads is through other human beings. Unless you come in contact with human being, you cannot get the virus. So prevent that. First habit has to be introduced. I'm not emphasizing, I'm requesting everybody to be very strict with others and with yourself about masking. That is the only way you can be 100% sure. Now about your patient who has got once COVID, it happens even by accident. And it happened to me also once. I got it through a patient who did not know was infected. And I must tell you that getting an early second infection can be disastrous. So one has to be very careful. And this is where post-COVID care comes in, which we did not talk about. And that's why I think you have a very good question. And even I refer to Nehaji's question, which was the first question, that in the post-COVID period, you are very likely to and very susceptible as a human body to get infections and get into problems. Now, those who are above 45 or 50 years, they can get into heart problem, they can get into stroke, they can get into more severe lung problem. And as mentioned in the first question, even minor infections like UTI can happen. So one really has to be careful. What I suggest is, if you have had COVID, for 4 weeks, do not exercise after the first symptoms. Do not try to get into stretching, morning walks, everything like that in right away, that I'm feeling good, I was asymptomatic, let me get into that. No, you will keep sliding down and you become more susceptible to the next infection. What you need to do is take it easy, let your body heal completely, take care of nutrition, the 7 pillars she highlighted, take care of yourself. And by taking care, I don't mean you just lie down on the bed whole day and watch phone and TV, but take care of your mind and body and your nutrition. And then after 4 weeks, get back into your routine and study very well, understand and ask the right people, not WhatsApp information in the news, about how to prevent the infection from happening again and from any of your family members getting it. Because if you are careful, but another family member is not, you will again get the infection. So these are very good questions and very, very valid points highlighted.
Thank you.
I have a question here, sir. I need to ask regarding the vaccination for the people who are affected by the COVID. So after the COVID, how much duration or what should be the gap given for having the vaccination?
She is the vaccine specialist.
It can be given after 4 to 6 weeks of the infection. After you clear the infection, wait for 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
It's a very
And
good question. Very good question. Very real situation. Many people are facing this situation.
And people are getting COVID in spite of 2 doses also. Some people are saying that it is lighter as compared to the fresh COVID infection. But everybody has a different immunity, different response to the vaccine. Some people respond very well to the vaccines. It's a relatively newer vaccine. So there aren't enough studies to prove that how much immunity we all will generate. And we are working on getting boosters also. We don't have enough vaccine also. So what is in our hand is prevention. Right now, people want to rush and get the vaccine so that they don't get life-threatening COVID. But people are collecting there, and wherever there are too many people, wherever there is crowd, COVID is also being spread there. So don't rush to get the vaccine. If you stay indoors, you will do fine without the vaccine also.
Yeah, this is another point I would want her to highlight that do you think vaccine centers can be a source of infection and have
Yes.
you?
Yes,
So-
they can be source of infection also because people are going in big numbers, waiting there for very long time, and as we all know, nobody practices right way of wearing masks, and people don't maintain adequate distance between each other because of our population. We have too much population. So best we can do is right now when the COVID is at its peak, we all stay indoors. So once this wave settles down is when everybody should work on getting their vaccines.
I have a question for you. How many days after the first dose is a person immunized against the disease?
After first dose, not enough.
So second dose, how many days after second dose?
At least after 15 days to a month is what when the person gets adequate immunity. But that also immunity is different for different people. Different people respond in different ways.
So if they wait 10 days, it's not a very big deal in getting the vaccine because you will only prevent it 2 months later.
Yeah.
So one should wait is the point I want to make, that please wait to get the vaccine. It is not necessary. There are no slots. There are no vaccines. Don't go from one center to the other. You'll end up with, and I have known several people who have ended up with infection once they went to get the vaccine.
And most young adults, like those who are in the bracket of 18 to 25 years, most of them, I would say, those who have decent immunity, fight out infection very well, and they are either asymptomatic or within 2 to 3 days they fight it out. So they should not rush to get the vaccine. It should be left for elderly people and people who are immunocompromised, because we have limited stock of vaccine in the country.
I have a question for you. Would you prefer one vaccine over the other, or whatever is available, one should take that?
Whatever is available, one should take that.
So is it like and I'm not saying this is the flu, but is the COVID virus vaccine like the flu vaccine? Is it similar to it, that it'll provide partial immunity from severe disease and needs to be taken repeatedly?
Yes, it will provide partial immunity only. Like flu shot we have to take every year because the virus mutates. So this virus is behaving exactly like that, and we don't know if we'll be able to make a vaccine which will last very long.
So probably the only advantage, is it right in concluding if I say that probably the only advantage of this vaccine is that it might and most likely will prevent very severe disease.
Yes.
And it may prevent death.
Yes.
But not after one dose, not after second dose, at least 15 to 20 days, 15 to 30 days after the second dose.
Yeah.
Okay. More questions, please.
One thing I wanted to highlight, so many people want to know, if suppose one person is positive, should they be testing other family members? So when there is one person who's positive and there are other people who are totally asymptomatic, they should wait three to 4 days to test themselves, and people in the house can start wearing masks around each other, maintain distance, ventilate their house well. And if somebody gets symptoms, should immediately test themselves. And if suppose somebody loses smell or taste, they don't even need to do the test because it is a clear-cut indicator that they have COVID. And small children, sometimes people are very afraid to get them tested, and sometimes mother and father are positive. So most of the time, and they cannot separate a little baby, then they have to assume that the child is positive, and both parents should wear masks and try to maintain a little distance from the baby. And one important thing, maybe some people have young babies and they may have to breastfeed the baby also. So the mothers who are COVID positive can nurse their babies, can breastfeed their babies wearing N95 mask and after sanitizing or washing their hands well.
I have a question for you. Suppose you know, one person gets infection in the house and the other person says, "Chalo, mujhe bhi saath mein hi ho jaye." So should they be using mask and isolating, not isolating? Because some people have done this also. कि अब घर में एक हो गया, सबको ही हो जाए, चलो हल्का infection में निकल जाएंगे. So should they be doing that?
This virus is very unpredictable how it behaves in different individuals. It can be a mild one or the same strain. If somebody has a mild one at home, may act very virulent to the other person and can be it can make the person very sick to the extent that may need hospitalization. So please, those who don't have infection, they should stay away. And the person should be in isolation means the doors have to be shut and nobody can enter that room. And we all have to protect, especially the elderly, people with diabetes, people with heart diseases, immunocompromised, and small babies. They have to be kept separate. And one more thing, I had a patient, both the parents were positive, though, so they sent their child to their family, friends, or their family members, other family members in another house because the child was asymptomatic. But when they consulted me, the child was already in somebody else's house, and after 2 to 3 days, the other family member, the whole family got infected. So do not send your kids away. If you have someone, do not send anybody away. Sometimes people send their elderly people to other house that they will go and live with someone else. But once there is a case in the house, all family members have to stay indoors and cannot step out to get the groceries. Some people don't want to get labeled, or this house has COVID patient, so they don't tell people. Do not do that. It's a social responsibility. We all have to inform our neighbors so that they are more careful and they don't come very close. And whatever precautions they feel they need to take, they should be able to take.
Deepika Sethi has a question.
Good evening, ma'am. I would like to know, is it normal to have minor cough even after recovering from COVID-19?
Minor cough may persist for a long time, but it's very important to inform your doctor, and especially if second week, third week, so they have to make sure that your lungs are okay, and if your saturations are okay, you have no breathing difficulty, and it's just an irritating cough, then the doctor may give you something mild. But if the cough is persistent, then one has to be careful that it's not leading to a secondary bacterial infection, which may need treatment. So do not ignore it.
Steam.
Steam, people can do steam, but it's not the cure. People think they have to steam so many times. They have to keep drinking hot fluids. No, whatever fluids one is comfortable taking, one has to keep hydrating oneself to maintain vitals. And steaming, if you feel better after steaming, one can do steam, but not like so many times in a day.
So I must say the plastic surgeons are seeing a lot of patients with burns because they were using steam at home and somebody got burned from the steam or the patient got burned. So be careful about that also. Mr. Singh has a question. Please go ahead.
Thank
you. Mr. Bhudev Singh.
I think he's unable to mute.
Has to unmute.
I'm trying to answer.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, it is possible that one may infected after both doses of infection, both doses of vaccination, and the symptoms are gone after 4 days, after 4 to 5 days.
So the question, if I understood right, is that can one get COVID infection after 2 doses of vaccine? Yes, we just discussed that we can get after 2 doses, especially if enough time hasn't elapsed or people have become lax after the vaccine, that now we are vaccinated, now we may not get it. People get a false sense of security. So even after vaccine, one has to be very careful.
Ma'am, is it required to get tested even after the symptoms are gone and the person is feeling healthy or something?
As I mentioned, मैंने आपको slides में बताया कि अगर कोई asymptomatic है totally, तो जब से सिम्टम्स स्टार्ट हुए हैं तब से 10 डेज का आइसोलेशन चाहिए आपको, दोबारा टेस्ट करवाने की जरूरत नहीं है। अगर कोई एसिम्टोमेटिक है टोटली लेकिन कोविड पॉजिटिव है, उसको भी टेस्ट नहीं करवाना है, 10 डेज के बाद वो आइसोलेशन से बाहर आ सकते हैं।
Okay, good evening, ma'am. My name is Mohit, ma'am. Thank you very much for the useful information to all of us. I actually have a question. One of my relative, he had a headache for the last 3 days and had been admitted into the hospital, and his saturation goes up to 69. So I don't know how much relevant this question is. I just wanted to know how to identify, is it a normal headache or a COVID-19 headache?
Is it a what?
COVID-19 headache.
COVID-19 what?
Headache, sir. Headache. I'm talking about the second stream.
Headache.
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 Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Headache.
Yes, sir.
But
Right.
you just mentioned that the saturation was very low in the hospital.
It was 69. Earlier it was 88. Then it dropped up to 77, and that final was 69. Then he had oxygen, and continuously is on oxygen till now. But now his saturation is 88. But I just wanted to know how to identify. Actually, he is my cousin brother. He has been admitted into the hospital till now, and he has been recovering right now. But I just wanted to know how to identify, is it a normal headache or a COVID-19 headache?
No, we can't.
He's in the hospital, so there are so many other things which need to be checked out by hospital people. Why he's having headache? Is his blood pressure normal, or is it high, or there's anything, or any medicine is causing headache, or just being in the ICU is causing sleepless nights and is causing headache, or maybe something to do with the brain. So the person who's in the hospital or low oxygen itself. So the doctors will be able to tell you better, because there's so many things one needs to take into account.
Okay.
So there's a question from Dr. Sneha Sharma.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My question is that from last so many days, I'm suffering from cold and cough. So is it the right time to get the vaccination if I want to?
Right time to
Get the vaccination.
better not to. If you have any symptoms, cough, cold, do not get the vaccine, because it could be allergic in the season. It could be COVID also. You don't know. Till you are totally fine, do not take the vaccine, because then the symptoms may get mixed up. Because sometimes some people are asymptomatic after the vaccine. Some people do get flu-like symptoms, or they get fever, body aches. Then it's very confusing how to treat that person.
And Neha ji.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Neha Bajaj, ma'am.
Good evening, all. My question is related to COVID-19 vaccine. Is there any difference between Covaxin and Covishield, which are currently used in India? And if there is any difference, then why some people get COVID-19 side effects? Why do some people get COVID-19 side effects?
If you have given vaccine, I don't know how old you are. I'm a person who gives vaccine all the time in my clinic because I'm a pediatrician, and every human being reacts in a different way. Some children get fever after the vaccine, some do not have anything. So every individual has a different response to vaccine. Even the side effects are different for every individual. Some people have nothing, and some people have like major body aches and fevers after the vaccine. Both the vaccines are equally good and not foolproof, but equally good and provide probably 75% protection only. So either vaccine, whichever is available, one should take it.
So I must also emphasize, we will have very soon more vaccines in the market, and Sputnik is coming in. That's a different vaccine completely as compared to Covaxin or Covishield. And many people think Covishield is better than Covaxin, but you never know. Maybe 6 months later, people will say, no, Covaxin is better than Covishield. So data, statistics, nothing is known. Just take anything that's available. Sputnik will be available from 15th of May onwards. Next month, 2 more vaccines will be coming in. Whosoever can take whichever vaccine, just go ahead and take it. Because the whole world needs vaccine, and vaccine program will go on for 3-4 years. So whenever you get a chance, but Many people are getting the infection, they are exposed, and they go thinking they will prevent the infection from happening. They go and get the vaccine. So many people who are getting vaccine right now, they have a family member who's got COVID and they are exposed. So they think if they get a shot of vaccine, they won't get the disease. So it is very dangerous right now to go in that sense. In fact, there is a health advisory to vaccine givers, which is issued that they have to ask if there is a family member who has infection or not. It is that dangerous right now.
But I think it's very difficult to screen so many people. So every individual has a social responsibility of doing what is right and protect ourselves and protect other people in our society.
Yes, very true.
More questions? Can I ask something for audience's benefit to her? What nutrition would you recommend for patients who are recovering from COVID?
For basic immunity, not just COVID, in general also one should be, as I mentioned in one of my slides also, one should be eating a rainbow plate, which I think Vikas can show a slide also. You should have lots of fruits, vegetables, seeds, and ginger, garlic, tomatoes, all these things which are readily available in our kitchen, and not rely totally on medicines, not rely on chemicals for immunity. The most important thing is that if we all stay mentally fit, physically fit, and eat right, sleep adequately, we should be able to fight it out with the right kind of mask, hand washing, and social distancing. That is the key.
I think there is a question from Dr. Sneha.
One more question, ma'am. I just want to know, actually, my father is suffering from high blood pressure from last so many years, about 15 years. So do you think that he should get vaccinated?
Definitely. Definitely.
Thank you.
So I must amplify on this point before we go to the next question, and that is everyone should get vaccinated. Why the media is talking about third wave and why the government is talking about third wave today and yesterday, all this talk started. Why? Because the unvaccinated population will become the most susceptible population. And who is unvaccinated right now? Our kids. There is no vaccine yet, which is approved for kids under 18, which is going to come in a month's time now. So that population will suddenly get too much of infection because they are totally unprotected. Not even one child is protected. So that is why everybody who can get the vaccine should get it. That is how Israel has done it, New Zealand has done it, Australia has done it, and US has done it. Let's be smarter than them.
Sir, I do have another question which is very important for me to know. Sir, is it okay if the person is allergic from allopathic medicines? Is it okay to go for vaccination?
Yeah, you're sitting with a doctor who is got very high allergies to the extent that her blood pressure and airway can close down within minutes. She will tell you how she took the vaccine.
Sure.
So if somebody is very allergy prone, one should not take a hospital in a school setting or community centers. If they are giving any vaccine, it should be taken in a proper hospital setting. And should check that they have all the emergency medicines available. Initially, the government was ensuring that was happening, but now they've become a little lax, and they are giving in the parking lots also, which they have to, because they have to give vaccine to more and more numbers, right? So, but at the same time, if we are aware that we are allergic prone, we should take care of ourselves and we should check and get it done at the right hospital. And ensure, do not presume anything, just ensure, just check with the staff before getting it that do you have emergency equipment, emergency meds ready, which they are ideally supposed to have in case of any allergic reaction.
I'd like to bring one more point here. You know, one keeps hearing these rare things. Oh, somebody took a vaccine and the next day he died. So, you know, everything is not vaccine related, number one. Number two, if after a vaccine, a person over the age of 45 feels anything new, do not presume it is, oh, my gas. Oh, it is my usual stomachache. No, do not presume. Go to the hospital, get yourself checked. because that's how that 1 in a million chance, it's only 1 in a million or less than 1 in a million, you will be able to prevent death. And that is very, 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 very rare, so rare that it still justifies the use of vaccine for the rest of the million people. More questions, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
There is one question from my end, Shalin this side. So, doctor, would you suggest of having something like a full body checkup or even a COVID test before going in for vaccination, so that we
Do
know?
not go to hospitals unnecessarily. Do not test yourself unnecessarily. Do not call lab workers at home unnecessarily. They're all going door to door and they're all exposed, and some of them have the symptoms, but they have the pressure to work and they are working, and some of them later on inform that they were COVID positive, and you will never come to know. So do not meet anybody right now.
Any human being.
Any human being. Not even your family members who are living in separate houses. Tell them to stay there only. Your real brothers, sisters also, they should not come unnecessarily to your place.
Got it. So,
Sorry
because
to say, but this is a very difficult time of life.
yeah, because
We should talk to them on the phone, video call, do everything, but not meet.
definitely, because I was asking, because if there is someone elderly at home and they might have some complications, so there's a dilemma whether they should go in for vaccination, seeing that there might be some complications and the adverse effects might amplify in that case. It's just
So right now, don't take them out. Right now, just
Yeah.
stay indoors. Just let this wave settle down and then make sure your elderly are vaccinated.
Okay, yeah, that helps. Sir.
More questions, please.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to understand if there is dry cough, persistent dry cough for a person who has tested negative, but he has been in the vicinity of a COVID patient. For example, I talk about my case only. I was a COVID patient from past 14 days. Yesterday only, I received my negative report. But my husband has been coughing persistently. He has got dry cough. So is that something alarming, or I mean, should he get his chest scan done? I just wanted to understand that.
But was he also positive?
No, he tested negative.
Negative test doesn't mean anything. You can be negative, you may have full symptoms, and you may test negative. So if there is another family member who's COVID positive in the same house, even if isolated, and you have similar symptoms, even if your test is negative, you have to be treated like a COVID patient, and the doctor has to be consulted, the right doctor.
So do you want to highlight when to do a COVID test? Suppose somebody gets COVID infection in my house and I get exposed to that person today. Should I get the COVID test tomorrow, or when should I get it done?
After 3 to 4 days, at least give the incubation period. It has to be.
So otherwise it will turn out to be false negative.
And false negative, we've seen a lot of false negative, but the patient has full-blown symptoms. This virus, we've seen that sometimes it's not coming positive. Sometimes the lab workers are not taking adequate samples also.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, related to that only, the question that possesses that what to do about the dry cough, it will subside on its own, or something needs to be done.
You have to consult your doctor who knows your complete history and has taken care of you from the beginning, will know the sequence of events and will study your case in details and then decide what is needed, whether to do an X-ray, whether to do a CT scan, whatever is essential, whether to do your blood test and then come to a conclusion. But do not self-medicate, do not take advice from anybody casually, please.
But since the doctor is advising that just increase the frequency of cough syrup, like from twice a day.
Yeah, you may need inhalers, you may need further testing by ENT doctor. There are several issues here. So if you're not satisfied with your current doctor, you may need to consult another doctor, or you may need to, just steam or just, the cough syrup may not be enough at some stage. There might be something else which is minor, or something which is persistent and needs further evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we can move on for now. There are no hands raised.
Anything else that you'd like to highlight?
I would like to ask Dr. Kohli if he can highlight on if somebody is on blood thinners. That's a very common question people have. If elderly people they are on blood thinners, should they be taking the vaccine or not? So if you can highlight on that.
So दो तरह के ब्लड थिनर्स होते हैं. एक होता है एस्पिरिन या प्लेटलेट की दवाई जिसको क्लोपिडोग्रेल क्लाविक्स भी कहते हैं, और दूसरे तरह का ब्लड थिनर होता है कि कुछ हम दवाई खा रहे हैं जिससे क्लॉटिंग ही कम हो जाती है, वॉरफेरिन या एसिट्रोम या वैसी कोई गोली. तो जो प्लेटलेट वाली एस्पिरिन टाइप की दवाई पे हैं उनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, वो जाके वैक्सीन ले लें, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. जो दूसरे लोग हैं जो ब्लड को पतला करने की दवाई ले रहे हैं जिसका नाम एसिट्रोम या वॉरफेरिन है, वो एक अलग कैटेगरी है, वो एस्पिरिन वाली कैटेगरी नहीं है. उनको अपनी डोज एक दिन उनको सबसे पहले अपने डॉक्टर से बात करनी होगी, क्योंकि वो हो सकता है ब्रेन के कारण से ये दवाई ले रहे हैं, वो हो सकता है हार्ट के कारण से ले रहे हैं या कोई और कारण से ले रहे हैं. तो उनको अपने डॉक्टर से बात करके वो दवाई एक दिन होल्ड करके अगले दिन वैक्सीन लेके उसके अगले दिन दोबारा दवाई मॉर्निंग में ले लेनी, ऐसे करना है. तो वैक्सीन मना नहीं है, जस्ट दवाई का थोड़ा एडजस्टमेंट चाहिए, वो भी उन्हीं को जो कि एसिट्रोम या वॉरफेरिन ले रहे हैं, जो कि प्रॉपर ब्लड थिनर है, ना कि एस्पिरिन टाइप का ब्लड थिनर. एस्पिरिन ब्लड थिनर से कुछ नहीं होता. जो सवाल मुझसे काफी बार पूछा जाता है, डॉक्टर क्या हम कॉन्सेंट्रेटर लेके रख लें, क्या हम स्टेरॉइड खरीद के रख लें, मार्केट में स्टेरॉइड कम हो रहा है, क्या हम ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर खरीद के रख लें. एक कारण ये कम हो रहा है कि सारा इंडिया ये आज सोच रहा है कि हम ये लेके रख लें क्योंकि हमें जरूरत पड़ सकती है, और जो असली मरीज है उसको इतने धक्के खाने पड़ रहे हैं, कहीं उनकी डेथ हो रही है इसकी वजह से. सो अगर हम सब कलेक्टिवली डिसाइड करें कि हम होर्डिंग नहीं करेंगे कॉन्सेंट्रेटर्स की जिनकी मार्केट प्राइस डबल हो गई है, या ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर्स की जिनकी 4 गुना ज्यादा हो गई है, या दवाई ही मेडिसिन ही गायब हो गई है मार्केट से, ये दवाइयां हमें नहीं होल्ड करने की जरूरत. हमें विश्वास होना चाहिए अपने आप में कि हम अच्छी तरह मास्क पहनेंगे, हम दूसरों से नहीं मिलेंगे, किसी के कांटेक्ट में नहीं आएंगे, हाथ धोएंगे, अगर कोई दरवाजा टच किया है या किसी ने दरवाजा टच किया या गेट बंद किया हमारे घर का, हमने दोबारा टच किया, हाथ धोएंगे, वो सारी प्रैक्टिस करेंगे. हमें ये दवाइयां नहीं चाहिए होंगी. प्लीज सब लोग ये डिसाइड करिए, हम होर्डिंग नहीं करेंगे. असली मरीज जो हैं उनके लिए दवाइयां छोड़ देंगे, उनके लिए ऑक्सीजन छोड़ देंगे, उनके लिए ऑक्सीजन कॉन्सेंट्रेटर्स छोड़ देंगे. ये मेरी रिक्वेस्ट और सजेशन है आप सबसे.
One more question from my side. What is the right time to donate the plasma after recovering, and who all can donate it?
So there is some issue about you are affected by COVID, you said, right, Dr. Sarita?
Yeah.
They may not take your plasma because, and I don't specifically mean you, but they are, women who have been pregnant. Their plasma cannot be taken or used for a very specific scientific reason. There is nothing against them personally. That when a lady gets pregnant, few blood cells of the baby get into the mother. So she is immunized against that type of blood group of the baby, and those antibodies, when they go as plasma into another person, they can create a massive reaction. So for the protection of the patient who's getting plasma, women who have been pregnant once, or even if they had a miscarriage after an alleged pregnancy, then their plasma cannot be used. If they have any other chronic disease, their plasma cannot be used. If they are on prolonged steroids, their plasma cannot be used. So there are few other precautions, like if somebody has infections like hepatitis, etc., or chronic viral infections which cannot be eliminated, even their plasma cannot be used. If their blood is tested positive for any other infection, or if they are on multiple medications for blood pressure and for sugar, then even their plasma cannot necessarily be used. So anyone who has had the infection and is healthy should please go ahead and donate it, because there are really very few. But is the plasma really helpful? That is a question. Just like the question is for FabiFlu or Favipiravir, or for Remdesivir, or for plasma. These are not proven to be beneficial. If some doctor is advising these, it is only कि ये last chance है किसी को देने के लिए कि दे दें, शायद ज़्यादा जल्दी improvement हो जाए. बट इनका जब ट्रायल हुआ 100 मरीज जिनको दिए, 100 मरीज जिनको नहीं दिए, कोई डिफरेंस नहीं था आउटकम्स में, इन 100 में या उन 100 में. सो इनका वैसे इमीडिएटली कोई फायदा नहीं है इन दवाइयों का. सिर्फ एक चीज दवाई है जिससे बेनिफिट हुआ है सर्वाइवल में, वो है स्टेरॉइड्स, और दूसरा जो बेनिफिट हुआ है वो है मास्क और हैंड सैनिटाइजेशन. तो स्टेरॉइड्स तक ना पहुंचे, मास्क और हैंड सैनिटाइजेशन ही करते रहें. हम लोग कैसे मरीज देखते हैं? मास्क और हैंड सैनिटाइजेशन से ही बच के पेशेंट से तब देखते हैं.
And one more question has just popped up in my mind, and it's related to the variants of the COVID that we are coming to know that there are now multiple variants of COVID in our atmosphere. So vaccination, whether it's whatever type of vaccination that we are taking, are they going to take care of each and every type of variant?
This is a new science. We don't know the answer and probably partially take care, not fully take care. This is best that's available. So mask is going to be with us for a very long time.
Thank you.
Dr. Vikas, this is Sachdeva here this side. Can I ask you a question, please?
Haan ji, boliye.
Except I was reading the newspaper today that WHO has recommended or permitted only 3 vaccines which are in US, Johnson & Johnson's, Moderna and Pfizer. But the Indian make vaccines, Covaxin and Covishield, they have not been given the status for international traveling for vaccination purpose. May I know the reason or the right answer for this, sir?
सर बहुत सारे वैक्सीन अवेलेबल होंगे और अभी इनके स्टैंडर्ड्स बनेंगे. इनके स्टैंडर्ड्स अभी बने नहीं हैं और कई और चीजें होंगी वैक्सीन को लेके. तो एग्जैक्टली सब कुछ इस समय नहीं जाना जा सकता. और आपको ये भी पता है कि WHO की सारी रिकमेंडेशंस फॉलो नहीं होती हैं. सो ये ब्लैक एंड वाइट में नहीं हुआ है अभी ये स्टोन में नहीं लिखा गया है कि हमारे वैक्सीन एक्सेप्ट नहीं हो रहे. ऐसा नहीं है. हमारी पॉपुलेशन यही वैक्सीन लेके बचेगी और इस इन्फेक्शन से हम लोग बाहर आएंगे. ये वैक्सीन वैसे वैक्सीन है जैसे डिप्थीरिया, टेटनस, जो पुरानी वैक्सीन सबसे सॉलिड वैक्सीन है टेटनस का, और या डिप्थीरिया का सबसे सॉलिड वैक्सीन है. ओवर डेकेड्स ये उस टेक्नोलॉजी से बने हैं. तो इतनी जल्दी इनको नहीं विड्रॉ, इनको ऐसे नहीं साइड में किया जा सकता और ऐसा नहीं होगा अल्टीमेटली. आप देख लीजिएगा.
नहीं, your point is very well made, sir.
That is right कि अभी नहीं accept किया उन्होंने, but maybe they don't have enough studies in their own population, so they haven't recognized it. But with time it may change. Their opinion may change.
Yeah, of course, definitely. But this was a total news to me. That's why I asked this question straight to you. Because I went to the newspaper today only. This point was there.
The Indians who travel to USA for work or for studies for college, their vaccination with Covishield is not being accepted as standard vaccination. Their vaccination is being accepted for, they have to take US vaccine. क्योंकि उनका अपना एक FDA अप्रूवल स्टैंडर्ड है, उनकी एक ज्योग्राफी है उनकी. जैसे ऑस्ट्रेलिया तो अपने सिटीजन्स को भी नहीं वापस आने देगा. तो ये बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स एक इशू है जो कि जियोपॉलिटिकल इशू है और इसमें आपको पता है कितनी पॉलिटिक्स है. तो लेट अस वेट एंड सी. मैं देख रहा हूँ ऑडियंस में संजय बिदलान जी हैं. मैं उनको प्रणाम करना चाहूंगा. मैं बहुत टाइम से इनको जानता हूं और इनकी बिटिया का इलाज किया है. और कोई क्वेश्चन थी?
Sir, sorry, I joined a bit late, maybe at the nick of the time. Right. So I don't know. There would have a lot many questions to you in between. and maybe that the query which are the doubt which I have in mind would have already clarified.
Okay,
But I have, I have only two doubts to get cleared for myself at least. One is that if a person gets infected with COVID, after how many days he can go for vaccination? Number two, is there any chance that a person has got the vaccination and he may still get infected with COVID?
The answer to your first question is, after how much gap of COVID can one take the second vaccine? We answered it earlier. It is 4 to 6 weeks minimum gap. And the second thing, after COVID vaccine, after 2 doses also, people are getting the infection. Some of them are getting very mild, but it's person to person, it varies depending on the immunity, age, and comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, immunocompromisation, kidney disease. So many factors are there.
And in case a person has got infected, as you have rightly said, that he can go for vaccination after 4 to 6 weeks of that. That's what is confirmed, Doctor?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Shaleen, you think we are towards the end of the meeting?
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Vikas Puri, and thanks, Dr. Poonam Puri. And I would like to request Dr. Sachdeva ji, the chairman of SDIT, to give a closing remarks and vote of thanks, please.
Dr. Vikas and Dr. Poonam, definitely your inputs would have been definitely valuable. I joined in between for a short while. Then somebody came to meet me. I got disconnected and I joined at this point of time. But yes, Shaleen spoke to me about your program 3-4 days ago. That's why we could fix it. And definitely would have been a very knowledgeable and eye-opener for all of us for various queries or the doubts which a person like me is also having in mind. And it was great of you to clarify those doubts to all of us. And definitely this, your interaction would have been quite beneficial to us, both from the precautionary steps which we need to take to save ourselves and what can be done for our vaccination program and all those things. And maybe that's how we should be seeking your help for further vaccination of our staff and students when the colleges get opened up. So definitely you have already offered us last time during the BOG also. So definitely we'll definitely seek your help in this for vaccination of our staff and students as soon as the things become normal. That's all. This is our request too, and thank you very much for enlightening us. That's all.
We request everybody to please be safe and take all the precautions, mask up, hand washing, everything to prevent infection, and please stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.